president held up the Bible at St. John's Church yesterday. I just wish he opened it once in a while instead of brandishing it. If he opened it, he could have learned something. They're all called to love one another as we love ourselves. It's really hard work, but it's the work of America. Donald Trump isn't interested in doing that work. Instead, he's preening and sweeping away all the guardrails that have long protected our democracy, guardrails that have helped make possible this nation's path to a more perfect union, a union that constantly requires reform and rededication. And yes, the protest from voices that are mistreated, ignored, left out, or left behind. But it is a union worth fighting for. And that's why I'm running for president.
Joe Biden speaking yesterday in Philadelphia.
You know, Mika, it's interesting. He started by talking about holding up that Bible. And what we've seen over the past 24 hours, condemnation from really across the political spectrum, from religious leaders. The Pope talking about the protests and looking at how things are going in the United States and saying you can't continue to turn a blind eye to what's going on in America and claim to protect life. Pat Robertson last night or yesterday talking about critically of the president's actions, saying he had to start showing compassion. You have James Lankford, a Republican senator, saying he reads the Bible every day and he's never seen anybody in his life hold up a Bible like that. I've got to say, as a guy who raised in a Southern Baptist church, who went to church about 4 or 5 times a week for the first 21 years of my life, I've got to say, I grew up in the culture of never saw anybody hoist a Bible forward as a political prop. You even have the head of the church he was standing in front of saying it was disgraceful what he was doing. And that's starting to show up, Mika, and the polls, the polling coming out showing that the overwhelming majority of Americans are opposed by this president talking about when the looting starts, the shooting starts, talking about thugs constantly, clearing a path with tear gas. Yes, it was tear gas. And by the way, if you represent us, whatever agency you represent, if you represent us, stop lying to us about about using tear gas. We saw it. It happened. We all saw it in real time.
And you did that to American citizens.
The global village saw people in that time with their heads thrown back and their friends pouring water in their eyes. Garrett Hake yesterday talked about it as well. You used tear gas. You used tear gas. You used pepper spray. You used rubber bullets to clash with peaceful protesters. We've got the tape. It's all on tape, Marco Rubio. It's all on tape, Republicans. It's all on tape. We saw it happening in real time. Stop lying. Your lies have already been revealed. And so you actually have peaceful protesters who were there, who had tear gas used against them, brute force used against them, rubber bullets used against them. I'm so ashamed that an Australian cameraman and reporter were brutalized in the park, the president's park, hit. Like Australia, by the way, one of our closest and oldest allies, a country that has had their troops along our troops in foxholes for over 100 years. They have fought with us in every war. And yet, members of the press being targeted constantly. Peaceful protests being broken up. And the president thinking he's proving a point. This law and order. I mean, for a photo op, let's show this again, Mika. I just want to show these poll numbers and show it's not working. No. It's not 1968. And as somebody said yesterday, if it were 1968, looking at the parallels, Donald Trump would be in big trouble. And I've got to say, Mika, what's so surprising to me, well, the brutality surprising to me, the head of the Department of Defense, hey, James Mattis, You want to wake up from your slumber and stop worrying about offending somebody? Because you're pissing off a lot of people, James Mattis. Your silence is pissing off a lot of people. We have a Secretary of Defense who actually said he thought that the president, they were going to inspect troops and they were going to inspect a bathroom. Now, that is Secretary Esper's worst excuse since he said his dog ate his Constitution. That is, it's despicable. If he were misled by that, by the President of the United States, then he should resign. Secretary Esper, you should resign this morning if you were used as a political plot. Your military, Mr. Secretary, your military, the men and women of our military are being used as political props. And guess what? They're not good political props because we have separated civilians from the military for about 240 years, and it's worked out pretty well for us. And if you think that a washed-up reality TV show host is going to change that reality, let me show you these poll numbers. This is from Reuters yesterday. 33% of Americans, only 1 in 3 Americans support the chaos that this man is spreading across America. When the looting starts, the shooting starts, calling protesters thugs as much as he possibly can. And then again, Mika, you know, it's the low point of his presidency so far. A lot of people thought the low point of his presidency, and they said so, was a week or two ago when he was actually terrorizing a widower who was begging him to stop using his dead wife's memory to try to stage a political attack. And George Will wrote this week, he said, anybody that looked at that and thought that was a low point of Donald Trump's presidency, they don't know Donald Trump. You don't understand. There is no low point. We think that what we saw yesterday, the day before, was a low point. There is no low point.
This is the truth.
And that's why. That is why Republicans, as you blindly go, some criticize Donald Trump.
Just a few.
For this. A few did. Yep. God bless them, because they need to do that. Not only for the country, not only defense of the Constitution, but for their own sake, for the sake of their constituents, for their place in history, so they won't be seen as going along with this extraordinarily frightening display of raw power and just sheer stupidity. Raw power combined with sheer stupidity. That's what happened earlier this week. And Americans aren't buying it. Donald Trump is not playing three-dimensional chess. He's eating the chess pieces, and it's not going well.
So along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have White House reporter for the Associated Press, Jonathan Lemire, NBC News, Capitol Hill correspondent and host of KCDC on MSNBC on Sunday nights, Casey Hunt, and MSNBC contributor Shauna Thomas. Great to have you back with us, Shauna.
Willie, you look at these numbers from the Reuters poll. So many people have been saying that law and order would work for Donald Trump, that it's going to be just like 1968. Here's the problem. Donald Trump is the incumbent. This is all happening on Donald Trump's watch. When he, the first night, started talking about shooting people, the President of the United States is calling protesters thugs. It's ginning things up. Pat Robertson's telling him to cut it out. The Pope's telling him to cut it out. Republicans are telling him, some Republicans, to cut it out. This is not working. And the biggest surprise to me, Willie, is I know that they're stupid. A lot of these people around the president are stupid. That's the only reason they're there, because they will do whatever he tells them to do. What I didn't realize is that some of them are so stupid that they were actually congratulating themselves after Donald Trump started a riot in the President's Park in Lafayette Park so he could have a photo op and awkwardly, weirdly, bizarrely hold a Bible like nobody has ever held a Bible before, like in a political event. It's just bizarre. Holding it upside down at one point.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.